What's going on? It's Astronaut H, and this is the What More Do You Want Network. And in this video, I will be discussing tonight's game between the Chicago Bulls and Milwaukee Bucks. And of course, if you watch any video like this in the past, you know that this is my Bulls report. Now, the Bulls were looking to bounce back after a loss in their last outing versus the Houston Rockets, which, left a sour taste in not only, fans, but also the players and me, and just tonight you wanted to see them come out with some sense of poise versus a Milwaukee Bucks team who's, vying for the number one, number two, maybe Eastern Conference Finals appearance. So the Bulls were going against a foe, similar division, going against Giannis, no Chris Middleton for the Bucks, and no Drew Holiday. So looking at the lineups, I felt like, okay, even matchup. They have a superstar, but also, still with DeRozan, Zach, Vucevic, Ayo, Patrick Williams. I felt like, okay, if the Bulls could stand, a few runs, this is how I felt before the game tipped off. I felt like if the Bulls could stand a few runs from the Bucks, withstand, the rebounding, withstand, Giannis, maybe they'll have a chance in this game. And it started off with Patrick Williams making the first bucket of the game. And when I saw that, I'm like, okay, I like when Pat gets engaged early. You've seen ball movement early. You've seen ball movement that led to open shots early. But again, Giannis, you could tell from the outset of this game that he was going to be a problem for the Bulls. Going downhill at early parts of the game, he was hitting turnaround jump shots. And I'm like, okay, if he's hitting that, then that's going to open up the lane, not only for him, but also for him to get in the paint and make open passes. You've seen Zach LaVine make 2 early threes, which I like, to see Zach engaged early in games. The Bulls were up 7 with the first few minutes, and the Bucks coach did call a timeout. So they were on par with what I like to see early. You seen the Bucks counteract that with, open shots for themselves, threes and things like that. Goran Dragic came in off the bench, him and also Andre Drummond. And Dragic, he came in and got some good minutes. He started getting in the paint, hitting a few open shots. But the Bulls do lose their lead. But also it was a better start than the game versus Houston. Then the Bucks, like I said, the Bucks started getting open threes, whether it was Grayson Allen, Joe Ingles, Pat Connaughton, Bobby Portis, who's always been a thorn in the Bulls' side ever since he's been traded, things like that. So the Bulls end up down 10. You've seen the Bucks bench come in and give them good production, but the Bulls also give up another 30-point quarter, which I did not like. And after one, it was 32-28. Now in the second, DeMar DeRozan, this is where he basically put his footprint on tonight's basketball game. In the second quarter, he became really aggressive. I don't know if it was something that Billy Donovan told him in the huddle going from the first to the second quarter, but he came out really aggressive, looking for his shot more. And we all know that DeRozan is a player that gets into the groove as the game goes along, which tonight wasn't no different. So you saw that. You saw him come in, get aggressive, and the Bulls end up going on a run, a 17-1 run. But again, the Bucks with their second chance points and rebounds allowed them to take the lead going into halftime at 52. No, excuse me, take a lead at 52-50. With 3 minutes left, Dragic, 12 in the first half, which was a good sign. But the Bulls did lead by 2 going into halftime, 57-55. And at the half, I'm like, okay, you're right where you want to be. You're right where you want to be. You're in a fight, you're in a dog fight, but ultimately you're not knocked out of this game. So that was a good sign, in my opinion, from what I saw. But to start the third, the Bucks get the first 6 points of the half, and then the Bucks got into the bonus with 9-10 left in the third. And honestly, in tonight's game, those referees were I'm not going to say horrible, but the calls, man, they were giving up. They weren't calling anything Chicago's way towards the second half. Most of the game, I will read off the stats, but I didn't see a lot of calls that the Bucks were getting going the same way for the Bulls, and that was a problem for me. You know, when you have a guy like DeRozan and Zach who's slashing and cutting and getting to the rim, but they're not getting calls, that's a problem. Now, in that, team fouls were a problem for Chicago. The Bulls did go on a 4-minute scoring drought in the third, and they could not rebound. For the life of them, they could not rebound. Of course, the Bulls are a smaller team. They don't have a legit center besides Drummond coming off the bench, but Vucevic is on the small side, and the Bulls play more small ball. You know, small 4, 3. You know, 3 is DeRozan, 2 is Zach, Ayo at the guard. But Vucevic is small, so they were taking advantage of that with Bobby Portis, taking advantage of that with Brook Lopez and Giannis, of course. But like I said, the Bulls could not rebound. Chicago did end up getting their first field goal at the 7:15 mark of the third, and they did go on the run. You know, the Bulls. Now, here's the thing, right? The third quarter, it looked a little dismal for Chicago. It looked a little dismal, and guys were, you know, things weren't going their way, so to speak. Things weren't going their way, but they stayed within the game. You know, they never were like out of it. They never were out of it. So they stayed in the game, and you've seen that in the fourth, because this is where Milwaukee went up by double digits, and the Bulls just went on a run in the fourth quarter. They went on a run. They got close, and they got close because they went on a run themselves, a 13-2 run to tie the game. A 13-2 run to tie the game. One of the biggest plays in the fourth quarter was not only DeMar DeRozan played big in the fourth quarter, but it was a steal that DeRozan got, and he threw it back into Ayo, and Ayo dunked the basketball, and, you know, it just seemed like life rejuvenated itself back into the building. The Bulls tie the game, and both teams did have a chance in regulation. You seen Giannis get the ball. The Bulls caused him to travel, so the Bulls get one chance. You know, Bulls did get a final say in the basketball game in regulation, and it was a bad throw-in, honestly, if you was to ask me. It was a bad throw-in to DeRozan, which caused the turnover, but it was the end of regulation. So in overtime, you saw pretty much Giannis come out with poise. He came out with basically, okay, I'm gonna put the game even more on my back. He do come out and score the first basket of overtime. The Bulls do get the ball. They miss. The Bucks come down. They make another bucket. The Bulls come down. They miss. So I'm like, okay, usually the team that makes the first 6 to 8 points in overtime, they usually win. So as I'm watching the game and time is dwindling down in overtime, I'm like, well, this is where the Bulls have to make a run. They have to make a run. They have to get some stops to ultimately win this game in overtime. So this is where DeRozan rose to the occasion, so to speak. No pun intended. He came up so big in overtime. You know, we're talking about a player who tonight scored 42 on 15 of 25 shooting and 12 of 14 from the free throw line. He came up so big in the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter and the overtime. You seen a big 3 from Vucevic. I mean, the Bulls in overtime scoring 13 to the Bucks 7 ultimately was the dagger in the game. And they ended up winning tonight 119 to 113. The Chicago Bulls are now 15-19 on the season. And what more could you ask for? They did give up one 30-point quarter tonight, and that was in the first. They gave up 32 points. Themselves, they didn't score no 30-point quarters. But I can honestly say, when I look at the stats, the Bulls did shoot 40% from 3. They shot 45% from the field for the game. The Bucks shot 37% for the game and 20% from three. Rebounds was 61 for the Bucks, 53 for the Bulls. Total turnovers were tied at 14 apiece. And honestly, when I look at the box score, now here's the thing, right? Because Giannis had himself a game too, and I'm going to read that off. He had a game for the ages. Like I'm not exaggerating. Giannis had 45 points. He shot 39 times. He played 42 minutes. It was honestly, I thought he played 48 minutes because it wasn't a time I looked up at the game and he wasn't playing, but he did grab 22 rebounds. I'm not gonna lie, he was beasting on the boards. Like he was insane on the glass. Like absolutely insane on the glass. And 7 assists. Their next best scorer was Bobby Portis, who had a double-double, 20 points and 11 rebounds. But for Chicago, I really want to get into it. Zach LaVine did have 24 points, 4 assists, and 2 rebounds. Vucevic did have 15 and 14. Even though he only shot the ball 12 times, didn't shoot particularly well, but 5 of 12 isn't that bad. Like I said, DeMar DeRozan had 42 points and 10 rebounds and 5 assists. You've seen 8 points from Patrick Williams, and he defended Giannis as well as he could, even though Giannis did put up 40 plus. You've seen Dragic off the bench with 12. Kobe White didn't score at all. He did get in for 6 minutes. I think that was because of matchups. You've seen Andre Drummond come off the bench with 13 rebounds and 7 points. And you've seen Javonte Green has some really big moments in tonight's game. He did have 5 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist in 17 minutes of play. And like I said, man, ultimately, tonight's matchup was just a gauge on what the Bulls could do. This is the second time this season that the Chicago Bulls beat the Milwaukee Bucks. So to gauge how they could perform versus the better teams with the in the East, you know, the Bostons, the Milwaukees, you know, the Brooklyns, things like that, the Bulls are still on par to be able to compete in the conference. It's just a simple fact of putting these things together and multiplying wins. You know, losing to Houston was bad after, you know, winning 3 straight. Now you beat Milwaukee. Now this is something to build upon and take this into your next outing. And, you know, ultimately, just like I said, build upon these wins. Take this, hang your hat on this win tonight. I know some fans that left the game pretty early were probably upset after they heard the news of the Chicago Bulls winning in that fashion after being down double digits to close the fourth and ultimately coming back and winning in overtime. The Bulls' next game is Friday against the Detroit Pistons. You know, another team that's rebuilding with a young core. So we'll see how the Bulls, you know, end the year off, because I believe they do play a back-to-back this Friday and Saturday. So we will see how things turn out in the Bulls' next game. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Bulls fans, Bucks fans, NBA fans, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can know anytime a video is being uploaded to this channel. It's Astronaut H. This is the What More Do You Want Network, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.